topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
This is Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. Do you want to live a more fulfilling life? Do you want to live your legacy and achieve your personal, professional, and financial goals? Well, coming up on Divya Parekh's Beyond Confidence, you will hear real stories of leaders, entrepreneurs, and achievers who have stepped into discomfort, shattered their status quo, and are living the life they want. You will learn how relationships are the key to achieving your aspirations and financial goals. Moving your career or business forward does not have to happen at the expense of your personal or family life, or vice versa. Learn more at www.divyaparekh.com, and you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. This is Beyond Confidence, and now here's your host, Divya Parekh.
Good morning, listeners. This is Divya, and super excited because I am with you. So, folks, for those of you who have got our books, Expert to Influencer and the Entrepreneur's Garden, thank you, because profits, partial profits are donated to entrepreneurs all across the globe through kiva.org. And I want to share something very exciting. Just a couple of days back, as I was checking my book out, it was number 4. Yes, folks, it was number 4 in business consulting. And this is after 3 years. So, and this is all thanks to you for your love that you have showed to our book, especially Expert to Influencer, that it is still a bestseller after 3 years. So cannot thank you enough. So grateful for you. And I highly encourage you and invite you to share 1 hour of your time every month to help somebody, show a kindness act, or just do something for someone with no strings attached. And know that when you help somebody, it makes you feel good. So you're doing it for yourself. Do that for yourself. And let's make difference one action at a time. All right. Without further ado, let's invite our guest in, Todd. Welcome, Todd.
Thank you for having me, Divya.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you. So we usually get started from childhood. Todd, share with us if you remember any remarkable moment that still stands out for you, even today.
From my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
The number one story that pops into my head when you say that is when my family moved to Massachusetts. And I asked my father to buy me a motorcycle, a dirt bike. I was 13 years old. And he said, get a job. I said, so the next morning I got up about 6 o'clock in the morning. This is in the summertime, towards late summer. And I just walked out of the house and I just kept walking. And I walked about 4 miles and I came over a hill and I saw a farm. And I walked up to the farm. There was an old man that was, it's funny because when you're 13, everybody's old. He's not that old now, when I think back on it, but he was working in the garden. And I walked up to him and I was always a little kid. And I said to him, I'm looking for a job. And he looked up at me and he said, you're too little. We do basically hard work around here. He said, come back when you're bigger. And so I left. And 2 weeks later, I got his name. I told him my name. And 2 weeks later, I walked back up there at 7 o'clock in the morning, and his name was Ray Davis. And I said, Mr. Davis, I said, it's Todd Rampe, and it's 7 o'clock, and I'm here to start work. And he looked up at me and said, what are you talking about? And I said, you told me to come back here in 2 weeks. Today's my first day, so I'm ready to work. And he knew I was full of it. He knew I made it up. But I believe, clearly he appreciated the initiative and all that. So he said, okay, you're going to pick up drops. And this was an apple orchard. And I looked out and I saw cows in the field. And I thought, why am I going to pick up cow drops? That doesn't sound too good to me. But I'll shorten the story here. It turns out that the apples that fall off the trees are called drops, and you pick those up and you make apple cider out of those. A lot of people don't like hearing that, but that's the truth. So I worked on that farm 7 days a week for 4 years. Every day after school, every Saturday, every Sunday, didn't play any sports or anything like that. And my parents sat me down one night when I came home from work, and my dad, who wasn't very tactful at the time, he said, "You're a weird kid." He said, "All you do is work." And I said, "I like it." I said, "I want to be successful. I want to be able to buy whatever I want." And I said, "Remember, you said go get a job to get a motorcycle." And it just, something clicked in me that if I go out there and do the work, I'm going to reap the rewards. So that's what I did. And I've been, a hard worker ever since. But, you learn at some point that working smart is clearly better and more fulfilling in all areas than working hard. So I switched over to using, my head as opposed to my back. Didn't have to do that very long, but that's the one story that pops into my head when you say that, because a big part of my, I'm going to say, molding was from this older gentleman that owned the farm, because I learned all about, the hard work and values, and to be able to do anything. I can drive a backhoe, a bulldozer, a tractor. It doesn't matter. I can do any of that. And I really, really appreciate the time that I spent there. It was hard work, but I really, really appreciate it. So I think everybody should get their hands dirty every once in a while to realize how life can be, and how it also could be.
Yeah, so you took it to heart, and that one sentence changed your life.
Right.
And it could have been, you could have ignored, as most teenagers might have ignored, and carried a chip on your shoulder.
Right.
So instead of that, what you did was you went and worked. And I really like what you talked about, is that it's important to get your hands dirty. And one thing I'll share is that I had the fortune to go on farms. I did not work on farms, and yet I've potted around and garden. And one thing I really, really appreciate about farmers, and I have to give hats off to farmers in any part of the world, that we don't count them as heroes, but they are heroes. Think about the uncertainty. Even if you just kind of take a look at, and just want to take a moment to appreciate them, that pandemic came and we faced uncertainty, and the whole humanity was shaken. We were literally shaken. People are reaping so many impact because of it, myself included. I didn't remain untouched. And now when you put yourself in a farmer's shoes, all they face is uncertainty. So yes, you may have water, you may have things, but the drought, or too much rain, or you are at the mercy of weather. And it's not even like somebody that you can kind of do it. So there are things you can put in place, but farmers are just a different breed. And there's so much to learn from them. And as you talked about the values, that hard work, they toil from morning till night. And the reason I can appreciate, I appreciate it because I had the fortune to go on farms when I was young. It was in the form of picnics. That said, I got to saw firsthand what it was, and potted a little bit. That said, one of the things, one of my clients, what I found was that farmers cannot take a whole lot of time off.
Right.
That we can take a week's vacation here, we can take a week's vacation there. They just cannot, because their whole business is dependent on them. So thank you for sharing that story. So as you grew up, so listeners, we are thanking our farmers here in our country and worldwide, because they're the ones who bring food to our table. So thank you, folks. So Todd, coming back to you, where did your journey take you through beyond high school, and where did your career end up?
Well, I knew I was not a good student. I barely squeaked through high school. I've always thought like an entrepreneur. I've never been a textbook type of person. So I knew I wasn't going to college, and I went to work for Bose Speakers, actually, very popular company. I was in the living in Massachusetts. Their headquarters are in Framingham, and I went to work for them as a sales person. And I was promoted to a branch manager when I was 21 years old, the youngest they had ever promoted. And I did that I worked for them for about 5 years. And one day I was transferred to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And one day I just decided I didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't want to work for anybody else. I had nothing lined up. I had no idea how I was going to make money. I just knew that I did not want to work for someone else anymore. And I called my boss, who I still keep in touch with. He's one of my mentors. As a matter of fact, I just talked to him a couple of weeks ago. And I called him one night, and this is mid 80s, I think, late 80s. And I said, I remember calling him, and I said, and I just finished doing a group interview, and I said, I'm done. And he said, oh, how did it go? And I said, oh, it went pretty well. I said, but I'm done. He said, yeah, I know you. I just heard you say that. I said, no, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And he said, whoa, wait a second. And I said, I just realized that this isn't for me. I need to go do something on my own. And with one exception, I was about 26 at the time, maybe 27. And I'll be 58 in a couple of months. So from 27, there was one time, there was a 6-month stint where I worked for someone else. But other than that, I haven't. I've never worked for anybody else. I just enjoy freedom too much. And I want to be able to create my own, it might sound, however it sounds, but I wanted to create the life that I wanted to live with that freedom. When I was a kid, my mother said to me, what do you want out of life? And I thought about it for a second, and I said, to be content. And she said, that's an interesting answer. What do you mean by that? And I said, I just want to be able to feel like I am perfectly happy where I am at that time, and I want to have that feeling throughout my whole life. And some people equate happiness with money, which I've made a lot of money, and I'll tell you that is completely false. Money does not buy happiness by any stretch. Or they think it's something materialistic. I've had every toy under the sun. I get tired of it after a little bit. And then you realize that the feeling of being content can be something as simple as sitting at a farm, at a picnic, or sitting with your toes in the sand at some beach. You don't have to be in a fancy hotel or anything. It's just, you feel like it's the right place at the right time. And that's always been important to me. And I've also realized, everybody knows this, but you have to make money to be able to do those things. Money, as they say, money makes the world go round. And I like the line from Prince, the singer. He said, money doesn't buy happiness, but it'll pay for the journey. And it's true. So you have to, you have to be somewhat, not somewhat, I was going to say somewhat successful. You have to generate money in order to be able to live the life you want. Now, that could be 20,000 a year. It could be 20 million a year. It depends on who you are. But that's really it. It's being content.
Mm-hmm. Very powerful. And so many people get lost in the definition of success. So one of the things what I'm hearing from you is that define your own success. And when you define your own success, you can carve out your own path.
Right.
Like, it's an age-old question that you ask, I want to be content. Because think about it. What are people going after? We are going after either happiness, joy, content. And when you're going after that, it's super important that your definition of success and your values are clear to you. So as you were thinking and as you started your next journey, What did you have in mind, and where did you end up at?
Well, I got into the car business actually as a wholesaler, and I would ship cars back and forth to from Canada, and then I would ship them over to Europe. And I liked it because I really didn't have to deal with the public. It's not like I was a car salesman. They were, you make a deal and you sell 10 cars to this guy and you put them on a ship and off they go. And I really liked that. I liked doing that a lot because I could fly over to those countries and check on my shipment, but also go see the different countries. It was enjoyable. I stopped doing that just because of exchange rates changed and connections and all that. I went, okay. And I thought, what do I want to be when I grow up? And I was 34, I think. And I decided I wanted to learn how to trade stocks. I'd heard about them, and everybody's heard about it. And I always pictured that those guys were making lots and lots of money, and they weren't really working too hard doing it. So I started my journey of becoming a stock trader. And so I paid a bunch of money to go to a seminar in Dallas, Texas, and it was actually to learn how to trade options, which is what I teach now. And this was 1997 or 1998. And I quickly realized it was a weekend seminar, 8 hours each day. And I quickly realized that I didn't understand a word the guy said. I mean, every single thing he said was way over my head. And so I got to work trying to find someone to teach me how to do it. But I was sitting there at the seminar, and on the shuttle van back to the airport, I sat next to a guy that had the same material. And it turns out that his brother, he said, quote unquote, trades the family's money. And I went, well, what does that mean? Do they each have $5 in there? Or is this like the Rockefellers or something? And I said, well, do you think you would teach me how to do it? And he said, no way. And I said, well, why don't you give me his number? Let him make that decision. And so he did. And I called him and bugged him and bugged him and bugged him. And he said, no way, I'm not interested. He finally gave in. So I made that transition from being shipping cars overseas to trading, learning from, I call him my 7-figure mentor for obvious reasons. And he was extremely successful, extremely knowledgeable. I don't want to say a terrible teacher, but because he might hear this, but a very strict teacher. As a matter of fact, the first time that I got to his house, and I'd get on an airplane and fly to see him every 2 weeks. And I did that for about 4 or 5 months. But I walked into his living room where his trading computer was set up, and he had this comfortable rocking chair that he sat in, and he had next to it one of those old desks you see in schools with the wooden tops that come around. They're made for, like, I don't know, 6-year-old kids or something. And he said, you sit there. I'm 6 feet, 230 pounds. I had a hard time squeezing into that chair, but he made me sit in it. I think he was trying to break me. I think he was trying to get me to leave him alone, because he made it clear on the phone. He goes, look, I don't teach people. I don't want to do this. It's not, but I kept at him. And we eventually became good friends, and he's the one that taught me how to do this. And I started trading, and I've been trading. I traded for about, probably 12 or 13 years and did nothing else. I flipped some houses and that kind of thing. But it's then I started teaching some friends and family members. And I never, ever set out to, start Wealth Builders Institute here and teach people how to do it. That was never on my radar. And it just happened through word of mouth. Everybody started saying, well, hey, you teach me, teach me. And then I'm like, you know what? It's just taking up a lot of my time. So I said, okay, well, I have to charge you, a couple $1,000 for this. And it was like people were standing in line to pay me to do this. And I said to my wife one day, I said, I think there's a business here. And I really never paid attention to any of the other trading
Right,
educators.
right,
And
right.
then I realized there's a ton of them out there. So that's how I started this, doing this. And I've been doing this
Got
now
it.
about 10
So
years.
now you started this, and one of the things is like, not everything is for everyone. So
Right.
we can share information with people, we can educate people, and then people can make their own informed decisions. So to go that route as to kind of giving value to people and providing information, let's look at some of the definitions. So if you could just kind of take 3 or 4 definitions or terms that people need to know, and whether entrepreneurs and professionals can do it, or does it have to be a full-time, that could be a good starting point.
Are you talking specifically about trading?
Yeah.
Okay. What I teach is day trading. And so you have to be able to do this for at least a couple of hours in the morning when the opening bell rings. East Coast 9:30, where I am in Las Vegas, Pacific, 6:30 in the morning. You can do very well in the first 2 hours and then shut your computer off and go do whatever you want. There are people that obviously want to trade more, but the the thing is, trading is not easy. It's not. I say that it's simple, but it's. Excuse me. I say that it's simple, but it's not easy. And what I mean by that is, I teach a very simple method, and the rules are spelled out for you. Step 1, 2, 3. When I say it's not easy, it's because trading is also emotional. And anytime money is involved, there's emotions. And there are only 2 emotions in trading: fear and greed. And if you allow either of those to creep into your decisions, you'll go off the rails. And it sounds so simple, and yet it is so difficult because of the emotional side of it. So what I decided to do was lay out the educational part of this, where it covers all of the bases. So I like to say that it virtually eliminates everything that's wrong with day trading, everything that keeps you from allowing your emotions to creep into those decisions. It is. I love it. I've been doing it for 24 years. I still find it funny, and I don't mean in a humorous way. Just incredibly. I'll say positive, that you can sit in front of your computer and and click your mouse and make money. I'm not making it sound like it's easy. Like I said, it's not. And I'm not making it sound like it's get rich quick, because it is not. The vast majority of people that get into trading do lose their money because of the emotional side of it. I'm not painting a very big, a good picture of it, but I'm a realist. I was at a party one time, and I was talking to this psychologist. I didn't know it at the time. And he's asking me questions. And then I said something about how you look at things. And I said, well, I'm the epitome of an optimist. And he said, wouldn't you rather be the epitome of a realist? And I went, yes. that makes more sense to me.
And especially with such a fluctuating markets and economy, one day it goes like, you're looking at Dow or NASDAQ numbers, and like one day
Right.
it's like 300 points up, and one day it crashes, and one day it goes. And looking at companies' performance, like especially because if we are like looking quarterly, there is no long game. So that said, tell us about different, like, people talk about bull market, bear market, like, what are these markets? And
Sure. Well, I'm sitting in front of an 8-monitor computer. This is my trading computer. And the Dow right now is down 725 points. Yesterday, it was up, not for the entire day, I don't think. But I'm looking at all of the stocks that I see across my ticker up there, and every single one of them today is red. So there are a lot of people that say that, obviously inflation has hit us. It's the highest it's been in, over 4 decades. Are we in a recession? Yes. Our government wants to give us a new definition of recession, just so that they don't have to carry that burden. But we're in a recession. Bull markets and bear markets. The beauty of trading the way that we do, I trade stock options, is I don't care if the market goes up or down. Bull market obviously means that the market is going up. Bear market means that it's going down. And the truth is, it's actually easier to make money when the market is going down. And most people they just can't wrap their head around that. It's like, wait a minute, I was always taught that you buy the stock and you hope that it goes up. How can you buy it and when it goes down, you make money? Well, you're not actually buying the long position, you're buying the short position. Just think of it as, I live in Las Vegas here, and I'm not a gambler, but if you go to what's the round wheel game? Roulette. They've got black and red. If you walked up there and you had to choose, no number, but if you had to choose, put your money on either black or red, you'd have to choose one. Okay. And wherever the ball lands, it lands. When we trade options, we can choose to buy on the side that is placing the bet that the price is going to go up, or we can place our bet on the side that bets that the price is going to go down. And the reason why I 100% believe that it's easier to make money when the market's going down is because people panic. If you're at a movie theater and the concession host walks into the theater and says, "Hey, free hot dogs out in the theater," out in the whatever they call it out there, that area. Some people are going to get up, but not everybody. And however, if the same person ran into the movie theater and said, "Fire," everybody's up and out of their seats running for the door. And what happens when people see the Dow down, now it's down 721.42, when they see that the Dow is down and they see their 401ks and their IRAs dropping, they get nervous and they sell. And it's what's known as panic selling. And there are a lot of people that went through this in 06, 07, 08, where they didn't do anything. And they got 35, 40, 50% of their accounts wiped out. So now it's like, I see it, the people that pay attention, I see it going down. And if it goes down, whatever, 5, 10% more, I'm out. And then once everybody starts doing that, they follow suit, because people, investors, the retail trader, which is the non-professional, they all pretty much move like, I hate to use this word, but they move like sheep. They really do. It's just because they don't understand how the markets work, and it's an unfortunate game of following the leader. And if you have a way to spot when the market is going to make that directional change, you just shift your investment from up to down, or long to short, or bull to bear.
So now here's the question, from what you're sharing, is that doesn't matter whether it's up or down, you can spot few stocks, trade options where you can go for low risk, high profitability. How can you go about finding that? Let's say if somebody's just kind of thinking about it.
Well, the way we teach our students is to focus just on a handful of stocks when you start out, because and ones that I'm not talking about penny stocks or the latest stock that I say the kids, it's not just kids that are on their chat forums saying, "Oh, this is the stock of the day," and everybody buys it and everybody sells it. That to me, that's a loser's game. You can't sustain that. So I teach my students to look at Facebook, look at Apple, and look at two ETFs, two exchange traded funds. You have the Qs and you have the SPY. They move a little bit slower, and just trade those and just get a feel for how they cycle during the day. There are three types of markets. There's trending market, there's a sideways market where it does nothing, and then there's a cycling market where it kind of looks like a roller coaster. The cycling market is the easiest to trade because you can see, it's just like that roller coaster, as I said. Sideways market is very difficult because people get Head faked. Oh, it's going up. They buy. Oh, didn't. Went down. They sell. They shouldn't have sold just yet. It just does this, kind of flat lines. But to focus on just a handful of stocks, the stocks are almost irrelevant to the method in which you spot these intraday market reversals. And that is, somebody asked me very recently, they said, I'm going to ask you one question. What is it that separates you from all the other trading educators? And he said, one sentence. And I said, I teach people how to spot intraday market reversals. Okay, what is that, Todd? Intraday market reversal is when the price is going in one direction and then just for apparently no reason changes direction, and then it does it again, maybe an hour later, does it again an hour later, and that's all smart money manipulation. It's all the professional traders that are doing this in order to pick the pockets of the retail traders. So back to your question, it's really just pay attention to one or two markets, and you'll realize that they do have patterns, they do cycle, and you have to be patient. One of the lines that I say all the time is, we get paid for being patient. And anybody can do this. It's really not difficult. I don't have any formal training. I don't have any knowledge of any of the complicated strategies. People are shocked by that. I teach one method and one method only. And that is, like I said earlier, to be a directional trader.
Right. So you do talk about that, about one sneaky tactic to get started and just start out with a small trading account. Would you be open to sharing with our listeners?
Sure. A lot of people think that you need deep pockets to trade options and you need either Wall Street experience or an Ivy League education. Not true. You really need, I would say, a minimum of $5,000, because what we are investing in think of it like a short-term rental, where I just mentioned Facebook stock, which is now called Meta. I'll stick with Facebook. If you were to buy Facebook, and right now Facebook is trading at 156.50. If you were to buy 1,000 shares of that, you need $156,000 to take that trade. Now, I do this jokingly in webinars. I say, okay, show of hands, how many people have $156,000 that you can do this? Nobody's hand goes up. And I say, that's why you're here, because I can teach you how to rent 1,000 shares for less than $3,000 per trade. And we do it by trading what's known as the weekly options. They expire every Friday. Being day traders, we're looking for intraday moves, just 2 or 3 of them, where Facebook will move $1. And you can buy, you can invest that $3,000 and make $400, $500, $600 on that trade. And if you do that 2 or 3 times a day, that's not too bad. I don't care who you are. If you make it $1,000 a day, that's a great income.
That's decent money.
It's very good. And you don't have to start off with 3,000. You can literally start with 300 and trade with one contract, which is exactly what I encourage all new students to do. There's no reason whatsoever for you to lose money while you're learning how to trade. And one other thing I want to add to this is, you mentioned the risk factor. It's funny, I say prayer and hope are not indicators. Just because you get into a trade doesn't mean the market owes you a profit. And so what we do is we make sure that our risk is incredibly small. So for every contract, think of it like a share of stock. For every contract that we buy, we risk $15. So that $3,000 example that I just talked about literally comes with a $150 risk. And if the trade goes against you by $150, you're automatically out. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You place the hard stop in your account, and it takes you out, so that you can't sit there and, you can manipulate it, but the point is to follow these rules and minimize your risk, because you want to be around to trade tomorrow. And people that get into trading thinking that they're going to become millionaires by next Thursday typically lose all their money. They're just not realistic about it.
Got it. And as you mentioned that, you get paid to be patient. So as you talked about that you place $3,000 and maybe you lose out on 150. So in your experience, as somebody's kind of getting into it, and this is not for the faint of heart.
Right.
Not everybody can go in there. What is a realistic expectation that, okay, let's say I start out with 5K.
Mm-hmm.
And as you're learning, what can one expect as a result?
Sure. I really like to drive the point home that this is not a race. You are learning how to be self-sufficient. You're learning how to run a one-person business from home in front of your computer. So just slow down and take it. It's like riding a bike. Take it slowly. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to put giant training wheels on that bike. And the way that I do it with my students is you're not going to trade real money for 1 month. You're going to go through the training, which is accessible on the website and the members area and all that, videos. We also have 2 live coaching classes that we have all of our students attend every week. And we do that for between 8 and 12 weeks while they're, starting out, because there's nothing like being able to look at someone like me and say, hey, I saw this, what happened? And I'll give you the answer in 2 seconds. Whereas they're trying to figure it out and they might spend 2 or 3 hours staring at the charts and learning how to do this. And it's just, I found that I call it the hand holding, which everybody wants when they're learning something. At least I would want that. And I got that. But the process that we teach is the first 30 days, you're going to write all your trades on paper. It's called paper trading. And you're just going to write down, I would have gotten in here. And if I followed my rules, this is what would have happened. When I say if, I always say that because some people, sometimes we don't follow the rules. If everybody followed the rules, there'd be nobody receiving speeding tickets every day on the highway. So, the first 30 days you're going to paper trade and write down everything. And I say, if you can't maintain at least a 60% win rate, you have no business trading real money. You don't know it well enough. So just slow down. We all learn at a different pace. And as I said earlier, I wasn't a great student. I'm a visual, hands-on type of learner. And you might need another week or 2. That's okay. That's okay. So, but in the I'll call it the textbook version of how we do this. It's the first 30 days you're paper trading. The second 30 days you're trading 1 contract, because you want to have a little skin in the game, because your emotional, the emotions kick in when you have a real trade. So for example, if I was sitting here paper trading and all of a sudden my belly grumbles, I'm hungry, I'll get up and go make a sandwich. But if I have money on the line and I'm watching, I'm not going anywhere. I'm sitting put, even if it's a small amount of money. So the second 30 days, you trade 1 contract. And this is where you prove to yourself that you can maintain at least a 60% win rate with real money. And once you do that, I strongly suggest people go from 1 contract to 10, because you're really just going from $300 to $3,000. And in the trading world, $3,000 really isn't a big investment. And again, when you have that, when you've minimized your risk with that $150 hard stop, you're protected. If you lost $150, I don't think you'd wake up in the middle of the night, crying about it. You'd be like, well, that wasn't pleasant, but whatever, I'll move on. But if you lost $1,500 or $15,000, that's a different story. And too many people like to dive into the deep end with trading when they're way before they're ready. So we really, really encourage people to just slow down. The market's not going anywhere. It reminds me when I first flew out to sit with my mentor, he's the one that taught me about these market reversals. And I said, how long do you think this is going to last? And he said, what do you mean? I said, pretty soon. I mean, I was very naive at the time. I said, well, pretty soon everybody's going to figure this out. And he just laughed and he said, no, they're not. He said, the retail traders, the people trading from home versus the professionals, they're always going to do the same thing. He said, and I changed it to my way of describing it like this. We're all creatures of habit. The people that color outside the lines are always going to color outside the lines. And the people that are following the rules to the T are always going to follow the rules to the T. So the professional traders are the ones that follow the rules to the T because they know the vast majority of the retail traders color outside the lines, and it's easy pickings for them. So we teach the people to follow a strict set of rules so that you don't get taken advantage of.
Definitely. So what you're sharing does make sense, that minimize the risk and then go for it. So listeners, we shared the information with you, and you got to make your informed decision as to whether it's for you or not.
That's right.
Absolutely. So any last words that you'd like to share with our listeners, and where they can find you and how they can contact you?
Sure. The company is wealthbuildersinstitute.com, or you can go to tradewithtodd.com, 2 Ds. And what I'd like to leave you with is there are, especially since the pandemic, trading educators have come out of the woodwork. Everybody's an expert. And I mean, I applaud their entrepreneurship. However, most of them are just selling something that has been repackaged and sold many, many, many times before. So here's the bit of advice, whether you enroll with us or not. Before you enroll in anything, just make sure that you can verify what the trading educator is saying on the screen. In other words, if I say A, B, C has to happen, and then the price should change direction, when those three things line up, if you can't see with your own eyes that the price changed direction at least 3 out of 4 times, stay away from it. Just verify, make sure that what you are being told is factual, because there's so many people that they literally spend billions of dollars a year on newsletters that they never take advantage of because the information's too late. They're hoping that someone will give them a hot stock tip that makes them a lot of money, and it almost never works out. So it's learn how to do this, but verify that what you're looking at is actually going to take place on the screen when you are looking at it. And that's why we do live demos. We don't do any fancy presentations. It says, let's look at the charts. As a matter of fact, I'm doing one in about 45 minutes. Let's look at the charts. I'm going to tell you it's going to do this. It should do this, this, and this. Now, if it doesn't do that, that's what's known as a losing trade. And guess what, folks? We take them. About 25% of our trades are losers. So that's it. Verify.
Well, fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing your knowledge with us, Todd. Good to have you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Divya.
Absolutely. And thank you, listeners, for being part of the show, because without you, the show is not possible. So reach out to us. And several of you had reached out to us, talking about that, hey, in this market that goes up and down, if we could bring you an expert that could help you out. So hope today's show was helpful to you. And do let us know how we can support you in your quest of living the life you want. So thank you for joining us today. And thank you, Juan, for making the show technically possible. So until next time, be well and take care.
Thank you for being part of Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. We hope you have learned more about how to start living the life you want. Each week on Beyond Confidence, you hear stories of real people who have experienced growth by overcoming their fears and building meaningful relationships. During Beyond Confidence, Divya Parekh shares what happened to her when she stepped out of her comfort zone to work directly with people across the globe. She not only coaches people how to form heart connections, but also transform relationships to mutually beneficial partnerships as they strive to live the life they want. If you are ready to live the life you want and leverage your strengths, learn more at www.divyaparekh.com. And you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. We look forward to you joining us next week.